before this actually starts, I'm just gonna say I'm really sorry if this offends any of you. I'm really sorry, I mean it.
Dress.
Right, so you guys had many great TED Talks yesterday. Zoe talked about teenage girls, and Patricia talked about Native American women, and I believe Nate talked about heroes. So you guys are all talking about these subjects that seemingly they are academic. So what am I doing here? Why are these words relevant to us? So if you guys have your agenda book, you guys could just flip to page 38, please. So you'll see a bunch of things that you can do to get a major infraction, and then about 11 dots down you can see using offensive language. So that is a case that you can get majorly infracted for. So which of these words do you think your teachers would consider to be offensive? I heard some of you guys saying you don't even know what drat means. So just keep that in mind as we go through this talk. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is, what's the big deal? Why is profanity? Why do we need to talk about it? What's the big fucking deal? I think the first thing that we need to know is that profanity can be used for humor in cases like these, but there is a line that you can't cross. You guys heard of Paula Dean, I think? She got her show taken away for saying the N-word on TV. So there's a line that you can't cross. The second thing that profanity is necessary for is that you use them to express your emotions. So imagine if you get frustrated at something and you can't say like fuck, or you can't say anything. Would that turn into some kind of violence? Would that hate be going somewhere else if you can't release it somewhere? And then the third thing, and that's the thing I'm going to talk about today, is it's a mirror of society's values. So there are different time periods that consider different words more offensive. So say for example, in the 5th and 6th century, it was the age of religion. So if you were to say the word God, that would be our equivalent of fuck. And if you were to go to the 17th century, we said the word trousers because they really didn't like obscenities. So if you were to say the word trousers or pants, that would be equally offensive. So this is the results. This is my analysis of what happened. So on the right, there is what you guys thought were the most offensive words. And thank you to the guys and girls that actually replied to the thing. I understand if you don't, but. So the research on the left is actually it was conducted by BBC in 2011, and it compared to the data that was in 1997. So this list on the left is the words that they consider the most offensive in 2011, and the words on the right are the words they consider the most offensive in 1997. So just take a look at the changes. You can see that some of the words that you guys consider the most offensive is not even on the list. Like faggot, it's not even on there. And then the N-word in 1997, it was ranked 11 among the most offensive words. And then in 2001, it was considered the 5th most offensive word. And then in this class, you guys considered that word the most offensive word. So why has this change happened over such a short period of time? And why is that important? Like I said, words that we consider the most offensive can act as a mirror to what we believe are things that we stigmatize. But does not talking about those words really help us move forward as a society? I personally think not. But there are a lot of things that we need to consider when you talk about a subject like this. Say, for example, I have to talk to Dr. Mumi Teta before I can actually move on with my project this Friday. So there are a lot of things that people need to know before they actually think that this is a proper topic to talk about in school. So knowing all these things, what do we need to be doing in the future? If this period of time, say in the 17th century, it was called the age of euphemism because you can't say the word die or trousers. So they use the word pass away, things like that. So what do we want to be known as in the 21st century? What do we want to call ourselves? And does not talking about these words really make us move forward as a society? I think we can talk about them, and I think we need classes like capstone at earlier ages, not just for seniors and juniors, but that is something I have to talk with like school authorities and stuff like that, because you can't really just do it. So I think the takeaway from this is that people say that before you say something, you should think about it, and what I propose is that you should research it, think about it, and then say it, because talking about it is the only way you can move forward as a society. Thank you.
Do we want to use some questions?
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Sorry. Questions?
With your data in the last slide, did you take into account that if the BBC is conducting?
Yeah, it was in Britain.
Yeah, because like I know fag over there just actually means cigarette.
Yeah. So, I forgot to mention that. Fag it's actually been used way before that. So faggot in French means like a bundle of sticks, because they actually used to burn people who were gay on a stake. So there are things you need to know before you actually consider certain words inappropriate, because you need to know why it's inappropriate. And Obama actually say that racism has not improved in America. People are just polite enough to not to use the N-word. So we need to talk about it.
Speaking of the N-word, how come you say like the other swear words? I won't say it because it's not my project. But how come you say like the other swear words, but you still say the N-word?
Well, that is because it's the most like stigmatized. Like I should not be doing that, because this project is about bringing awareness to it.
Yeah.
I need to be. Yeah, that's my mistake. Sorry. I should.
No. I was just wondering. Like I see a reason behind it, but if you want to educate, you gotta.
You talked about like you said there's like a line, you mentioned like Paula Dean, but like what do you think like determines that line? And like you kind of talked about how it changes over time, but like what determines that?
Well, society determines that, but people don't know why. They just tell others like you can't say that word. Like, have you ever asked your parents like why you can't say the N-word? I mean, you probably know it from school. Like the data that we got from here, like you guys had a 9.71 average for the N-word, but I'm pretty sure for the general public, it's not going to be the same, because you guys are more educated and the data is biased. Only like 14 of you guys answer this. But if you were to go to the public and ask them, I'm pretty sure they would not know. And so I think education and bringing awareness to these words can help us move forward as a society. Okay.
So if let's say like what you said in the last part is we have to research it, learn about it, and then say it. So in terms of the N-word, because that is the most controversial word, what if people started just saying it? Like, does that...
No. Yeah, I know what you're saying, but like, I'm not asking people to say it. I'm asking people to know why they can't say it before just not saying it. Just like, hey, you can't say this, and you don't ever question it. I think people need to question it to know why. Like, there's a certain history of the meaning, and there's like, I'm actually reading an entire book about it, so there's a lot about it, and you need to know it before. Sophia.
Do you think that, I don't know, in 10, 20 years, some of these words will become just as like not offensive as hell and God were? Because, with like pop culture and certain songs and just like how people are nowadays. Like a lot of these words are used constantly in like songs or t-shirts or whatever. And like, do you think it's possible that in 10 years, like it's not going to be a big deal to say half of these words?
Oh, definitely. So I've actually been tracking the most like songs that are considered explicit for the past few months, and for the top 50 list, around 10 of the words were, 10 of the songs were considered explicit. And we've actually been seeing like the F word is actually not that common nowadays. Like it's actually not that stigmatized nowadays. And even if I were to ask people why is this word stigmatized, they don't know it. And I see more 60s using it like over and over and over. And I think they use the word faggot a lot too because they don't know the history behind it. So like the only time I ever hear it is from them. So definitely it's gonna change. And I feel like since religion is actually becoming like a smaller and smaller part of our life, I think words like hell and goddamn, and oh yeah, drat actually means like goddamn, it's like another slur for it. So I feel like in 10 to 20 years, more and more people will become like atheists. And I think the like offensiveness of that word will go down.
What's your final project?
So I'm actually doing a documentary, but I can't really go forward until I talk to Dr. Louis Taylor. Like I want to film kids in our school like, and the reaction to it, but I can't do it until I actually get the permission from Dr. Louis Taylor.
Do you think that what we think is the worst word to use will change depending on our age? So do you think that younger kids will have the same perspective or older people?
I think younger kids, they just say it because of what they hear. Like they don't actually know what it means. But as you grow older, you become more educated with like the history